Look at this. You got this stuff here. Look at these trees all wedged in this little pocket right down here. And if I zoom back out, right, doesn't seem like anything. But then we go back over here, and what do you have? Look at these frickin' tracks. They're old and melted in the snow, but there's got to be 5 feet in between each track. This is northern Minnesota, by the way. My mind's blown. They're old tracks, but 5 feet easily between each track. I have no clue.
All right, look at the camera. Look over here. Who's out there? Who's that? That's the world right there. World, can't believe how fast you're growing. Me too. Big fat ball of fur. And she's put on almost a pound a day since she's been here. It's crazy. And Sarah just sent her off for her first beauty parlor visit yesterday. Get her to the groomers early so she gets used to not scared, so she's gonna rip somebody's arm or leg off later on. So she's all clean and fluffy. There you go. Say hello and say goodbye. So anyway, she's busy hanging out on this side of the goat pen fence. Wanted to make friends with them. And all they do is slap their tail up high to their ass and fuzz their fur out and put their ears forward and try to headbutt her. They don't like her yet. It's kind of funny to watch. But anyway, it's up at 5 o'clock this morning. A friend of mine took me up to the woods, owns a logging show, and loaded me up with a bunch of beauty fur chunks. So I gotta get some chopping and splitting going today, and carry on with some other items. Try to figure out how I'm gonna tackle this well issue I've got going on. Pain in the ass. In the meantime, I got a lot of emails in from all of you, man. A lot. Listen to this one. Watch this. Hi Steve, I want to share this video with you I took in northern Minnesota around 2016-ish. It was in the beginning of spring/late winter, like April, if my memory serves. What the video doesn't show is just how far this trackway went beyond what I filmed. It went straight ahead, crossed a highway, down into the river bottom, crossed a still frozen river, and up a huge ridge leading to a power line area. Steve, these tracks were incredible. I wish I would have filmed more because these could have rivaled the older famous Minnesota Bigfoot trackway that was filmed more northwest of here. Anyway, I know tracks don't exactly thrill you, but I thought the round table might enjoy a look. Enjoy. Giggles at my heavy Scandinavian northern Minnesota accent. Take care, all in. God bless Craig. Yes, you can say it. LOL. Okay, Craig, thanks for that, man.
Look at this. You got this stuff here. You got this stuff here. Look at these trees all wedged in this little pocket right down here. And if I zoom back out, right, doesn't seem like anything. But then we go back over here, and what do you have? Look at these frickin' tracks. They're old and melted in the snow, but there's got to be 5 feet in between each track. This is northern Minnesota, by the way. My mind's blown. They're old tracks, but 5 feet easily between each track. I have no clue.
And I had a look at this morning on my big computer, because when you guys send me stuff that I have to download, I don't know why, my phone won't open it. And I was hitting my emails this morning, copying and saving, and then I was in the house when I saw this one come up, so I already looked at the video. Something else, another crystal clear trackway is something, right? It's a pretty big frickin' thing when you put the frame of whatever made those prints in it, put a foot in each print and build on top of that, it makes you go, holy shit, right? And a lot of people going, well, that's a rabbit jumping. That's a deer bounding. And no, it's not. Trust me. It's not. I am so familiar with animal tracks in North America, it is stupid. And that ain't no frickin' rabbit or deer. Thanks for sending that in, man. Everybody's going to appreciate watching this one. Mark that as read. All right, this was a screenshot of a comment in the comment section of a YouTube video, and it was mailed to me. Listen to this. Steve, I was in a tree stand hunting deer. Okay, so your name is on YouTube, on your account, on the comments, so we'll use it. It was either Lyle Graff or LVLE Graff is the name. Steve, I was in a tree stand hunting deer back in '79 on my uncle's farm, and I saw one of these things walk in under the tree I was in and kept going up the hill towards the top of this ridge. As it neared the top, all of a sudden it kind of turned half around and kneeling at the same time, and as it did this, it turned into what looked like a tree stump. Wow. I then seen 2 hunters come across the top of the ridge and walk across it and went out of sight. This thing stood up and continued on its way. This thing, I guessed, at 9 foot tall, and thankfully I was dressed in camo, or I know it would have been me. End of comment. And that's a hair raiser. So if you watch this channel, man, you want to email me about that, because from what we understand now, the second you put eyes on them, they know you're looking at them. It's way too many people have reported that in. And these people aren't related to each other at all in any way, not connected in any way, I mean. And now one thing that we don't understand is how they pull that off and what they sense, right? So knowing that the other 2 hunters were coming, I wonder if possibly that being its own, what I'm going to call sixth sense, intuition, I wonder if it had it absolute tunnel vision, tunnel focused on those 2 hunters, which enabled it to appear like it didn't know you were there, or it possibly didn't care, or possibly it could feel what kind of energy you were giving off and knew you weren't going to blast it. But it wasn't so sure about those 2 other dudes coming, right? So, but that is real interesting about the stump thing. I don't know how many times I've been hunting in the coastal mountains of British Columbia remote, in big, mature, never before logged off timber. And sometimes I've sat there by myself as I'm sitting on a mossy bluff looking down, looking in that big timber, and sometimes I can see up to 150 yards away through lanes in that big timber. And sometimes I wonder, because when you're hunting, the majority of the time what you see is what you're looking for. And as an example of that, when I'm up north guiding, if I'm hunting moose, I'm looking for moose. I'm looking for moose-shaped items. I'm looking for moose-colored items, and I'm looking for moose, and I predominantly will see moose all day. And then if we flip over to caribou, well, now I'm seeing caribou and not much anything else, because my eyes are looking for that shape and form and color, right? What else? I rarely see black bears up north, but when I have a hunter who has a tag, now we're hunting black bears, and then I will see at least 12 or 15 black bears in a day at times because that's what I'm looking for. And I've stopped myself a couple times, and I'm curious as I'm in that deep timber by myself, and I wonder what the results would be if I started using my high-power binoculars, sitting there very patiently and looking for every single stump I can see in my field of view and staring at it intently until one of the stumps gives up its true form or whatever. I can start making out that that's quite not bark, is it? And I've thought about that a few times, knowing that you only see what you're looking for on average. And then I've stopped myself because I'm like, why would I want to do that? I'm like a 2-hour hike up this mountain in the timber by myself. I don't need something escorting me out of here, breathing down my neck, throwing shit at me, you're screaming at me, you're staring me down. Not into it. See? But anyways, it's a thought though, right? For somebody who might be into it, you might want to go jump into some big, mature, huge timber in the Pacific Northwest, sit down with the binoculars and start studying every single frickin' stump you can see in your peripheral, in your field of view, and then shuffle over and start again in another chunk. It's a thought, isn't it? But then again, what are you going to attract? What's going to come of that? Good or bad? Or are you going to never go in the woods again, right? Who knows? I don't want to lose my passion for the woods, and I want to lose my courage for going out in the woods. That's why I'm not interested in what's behind me, what's around me. Anyway, not babbling. Funny Sasquatch story from the UK. Hey man. Hi Steve. I recently discovered your YouTube channel when researching the topic of Sasquatch/Bigfoot/Sabe. I've also been watching David Pilatus' Bigfoot classes. Thank you both for providing a grounded and also open-minded exploration of the subject. Many of the stories your viewers have shared, along with the historical accounts David provides, have put many of the pieces of Bigfoot puzzle in place for me, especially in regards to these beings being psychic or displaying some kind of telepathic ability. I'm a big believer that humans have such abilities, but our modern living and technological lifestyle has suppressed such natural abilities. It makes sense that such a being as Bigfoot would harness and hone such abilities. Also, the idea that these creatures are intelligent enough to avoid humans is logical. Going back into history before Europeans arrived, I believe these creatures were more inclined to interact with Native Americans, including trading with them on occasions. It's been noted in the history, passed down. The stories of giant skeletons being unearthed across America, I think, is the missing piece of the puzzle. It's definitely one of them, right? For our story. Anyway, I have a rather hilarious Bigfoot story from the UK, one that may entertain some of your viewers, especially the UK police officer who gave his account. This story is in no way an insult or mockery of the many credible sightings your viewers and many North America have had and are still having today. It just may be a lighthearted and rather funny story from here in the UK. My friend is a police officer in a small northern UK town. One night, him and his colleague were due to relieve 2 officers who were staking out a park where a number of muggings that had been reported. My friend's colleague turned up with a gorilla costume he had found and said he is going to prank the other 2 officers on the stakeout. That might not have a good ending for some, especially if somebody you're pranking you don't know, but maybe they've seen one previous. Now, my friend thought this would be hilarious and dared him to do it. So this police officer, while still on duty, dressed up as a giant gorilla and decided to jump out and scare the other 2 police officers. It was late at night, pitch black, and needless to say, the 2 officers were terrified, jumped into their vehicle, and started to radio for backup. At which point the officer in the gorilla costume had to reveal himself to them, as so not to get into trouble. The officers were obviously not happy at being pranked by their colleagues and made to shit themselves. So they threatened to tell their superior officer, unless he played the same prank on a member of the public. Oh my God. The officer didn't really have a choice, so all 3 police officers sat back and watched as one of their colleagues, dressed in a gorilla costume late at night, jumped out on some poor guy walking through the park. Oh my God. PTSD. Introduction, hello. Apparently this guy ran for his life screaming. No doubt. Then all 4 of them had to consider what would happen if that guy ran for the police. and said he had just been chased by a giant gorilla in the park. That would all be in a bit of trouble. They would all be in a bit of trouble. Lucky for them, nothing was ever reported, but somewhere in the town, which I won't name, is a guy who believes he was once chased down by a giant gorilla on two legs in the park at night. I hope that Bigfoot story from the UK makes a few people laugh. Dan. It did me, Dan. People got to be careful these days, especially with all this information coming out. You jump in front of somebody dressed like that, you're liable to catch some lead. Right? All right. Title this one as Red. Another strange deer camp is the title. Hey Steve, hope you're doing well. I'm sitting here with COVID. Third time. That sucks, but when I really get sick is when I see your fearless leader on my TV. What a pansy ass. Or the jackass pretending to run the show south of you. God help us all. Yeah. Anyhow, I said to myself, I wouldn't bother you again till I was shaking hands with the big hairy dude in the trees. Not that I'm trying to, because I've seen enough weirdness to suit me. I don't need any more. I'm still hanging out in the trees, though. Last summer, I turned some of the southern Ohioans on to the upper Michigan forests, streams, and Great Lakes. It's hard to pry them out of these hills, but now they've been there, they can't wait to go back. We put a couple 100 miles on the four-wheelers, running the trails back and forth over to Lake Superior. Seen one black bear crossing the trail and a couple black bears down on the Pine River in the lower half of the state on the way up, but no weird shit. Then came deer season and Kentucky deer camp. We went down about 5 days before and set up a cook tent. Now, I don't know if you will find this strange or not, but I'm pretty tuned in about what's going on around me. I'll do a brief description of this place, just so you have an idea. The holler is about 5 or 6 miles long, more or less. There's a couple of houses at the beginning when you first turn off the blacktop, with the exception of 2 old women that bought a small piece of land, sight unseen, off the internet. I think they got tired of the lefties out west where they were from. Somebody said they were living in a tent up there in the wintertime. So a church built them a little shack to live in. They got big balls and probably loaded for bear. I talked to them, and they're not stupid. First time I seen one of them, she was working her way down the hill with a bucket in her hand and a bonnet on. And I was working through the brush up the holler where my stepdad was born with my 30-30. And she says, "You ain't gonna shoot me, are you?" I said, "You ain't a deer, are you?" And she said, "I'm in search of water. Is there any in that creek?" Now you get my drift of the area. Okay, back to the cook tent. We set up the tent and are sitting by the fire after dark, and their little dog starts barking. It's about a quarter mile away. I can tell which way it's barking, and I can hear that it's being circled. Finally, it's barking in our direction. There's no moon, and you can't see your hand in front of your face. And something lets out a scream right in front of us, about 20 yards. Like it was pissed off and telling that dog to kiss its ass. Or maybe telling its hunting partner that there were humans outside, here on this side. We just looked at each other, and my cousin said, "Welcome to Straight Creek." Honestly, we've had so much weird shit go on there, it didn't even surprise me. Next night, we're sitting by the fire, and a bunch of coyotes go off on the hillside to the left. Then about 10 minutes later, a bunch of coyotes go off on the hillside to the right. Then, right where the first pack were at a bunch of howls were at, there's some missing punctuation, be patient. A bunch of owls started hooting. Then a bunch of owls go off where the second pack was on the other side. And I'm thinking, when did owls start following coyotes around? We leave in the morning. We come back day before opening day. We're sitting by the fire that night, and my cousin says, "Did you hear that?" Well, he's 18 years younger than me, and he has real good hearing. So he picks up his flashlight and shines it on the hill behind us. And there's at least a 10-point standing 15 feet from us. We're talking, and had a good fire. When he hit it with the light, it just walked off real slow. We had small deer do that before, I told you about, but never a big smart old buck. Okay, so if that all ain't kind of weird, so if that ain't all kind of weird, I'll kiss your ass. Next night, we're sitting by the fire with one of the local guys and another hunting partner shooting the shit. It's pitch black dark, and a crow calls out in the darkness from the hill behind us. I never heard another crow the rest of the time I was there, and damn sure never heard one at night. Okay then, here's the topper. A couple nights later, my cousin gets up to take a piss. He's over there in the dark, away from the fire, and nobody's paying attention to him, and he says, "Hey, look at those lights." So I jump up and looked, and there's two pale white orbs. I seen both of them, but could only follow one. I went over to the camp, did an S shape, went back over by the other, and disappeared. Read that one more time smoother. It went over the camp and did an S shape, went back over by the other, and disappeared. Cousin said it started out as one and split in two. On a different note, I was watching Dave Pilatus' Bigfoot 101 lesson 7, and he said a barn was tore up and horses were found killed and found laying in a creek in Ross County, Ohio. The sheriff said it was a non-human entity. I wonder what that sheriff seen to make him say that, and can bet it wasn't a bear track or mountain lion track or bite mark. Ross County is just up the road from me. I guess that happened when I was down hunting in Kentucky. We recently had a Class A sighting by someone I know personally a couple miles from me. I don't speak for other people, but I will tell you this. This witness prays over their food before they eat it, even at McDonald's. All right. Yeah, I understand Dave's doing quite a bit on the Sasquatch topic lately, and so you guys know, like I don't have time to watch other people's stuff for a while. I don't have time to sit on my ass and watch videos. It kind of sucks. I'll get time though eventually. Where's that dog? She's around here somewhere. But anyway, I hope if you all want real good knowledge on what's going on the planet with the creepy weird shit, Dave is definitely a solid source, without a doubt. I would encourage people, if you got time to sit and watch and learn, he's definitely a solid place to do that. You're not wasting your time, is what I'm saying. I'll tell you what, something came and killed all my horses for the hell of it. I would not stop. I wouldn't stop hunting them down if I could, and evening up the score. Semi moves while all air brakes are locked. It's the title of this next one. Hello, Steve. My name is John, and I'm a retired commercial truck driver from northern Minnesota. And I love hearing from you professional drivers. When I first started driving in '89, I was in one of the southern states, parked overnight between two metal pole buildings in a row of buildings. I was driving an '85 Kenworth Semi with a coffin sleeper, which didn't have air conditioning in it, so sleeping in it was miserable, especially down south in the muggy heat. No doubt. I'd arrived at my delivery location earlier after dark, and I was pulling a 48-foot flatbed loaded with lumber. When I arrived, I undid the tarp and straps and put the straps away, but left the tarp over the load in case it rained overnight. My Semi was facing north towards the road for easy departure after unloading in the morning. I went to sleep after I was prepared to unload in the morning, trying to make everything easy for the individual who would meet me in the morning. So, off to sleep I went. This thing's still recording? Yep. I was tossing and turning due to the heat, and I was wet with sweat due to how muggy it was. Part of the night I had the tiny wing windows open for extra air, and a lot of the evening I just opened the left side of the door with a little sleeper to try to get cooler and sleep. Don't touch the... There we go. Dog's back. Sorry, you guys. One more time. Part of the night I had the tiny wing windows open for extra air, and a lot of the evening I just opened the left side door of the little sleeper to try and get cooler and slept on top of my bedding. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I was awakened by the sudden movement of my 40-ton Semi, which is 80,000 pounds, being rocked forward and back multiple times, which startled me because all 18 wheels were locked in place by both air valves being engaged to keep it from moving. Holy shit. It's easy to jump up onto the side of a semi-tractor and try to rock it side to side as a prank on a buddy, but not to budge it forward and back. I jumped up from my bed, slammed the sleeper door, closed, and then jumped into the driver's seat and started up the tractor to get the heck out of there. One small problem. My old truck had an air leak somewhere in the system, and all the air was drained out of my tank, so I couldn't move it if I wanted to. That sucks. I turned on all the lights on my truck, including the rear-facing work lights, so I could see what was out there. There were also floodlights that lit up the areas between the buildings, but not behind them, facing south towards wooded area. This totally freaked me out. So I grabbed my tire billy club, used to thump the tires to make sure they still have a good sound, which means they aren't flat. Like that would intimidate whatever moved my truck. I got out of the cab and climbed up the steps between the truck and trailer and onto the top of the lumber, still covered with the tarp. I walked the length of my trailer to the back, looking around and at least above anything on the ground. The tractor was still building air pressure at this point. When I got to the back of the trailer, I looked to my right, which is looking towards the west, and I heard loud crashing around in a large metal container which was about 100 yards away. There were 3 of them, about 50 feet apart in a row, and I couldn't see anything because it was too dark behind the buildings, but the noise was like something was rummaging through them. I also remember a foul odor in the air, yet it never occurred to me that it could have been a sabe. I never looked around for footprints either. I was in my early 20s and alone, away from home. This was way before cell phones, so I ended up walking around my truck and trailer with a flashlight and didn't see anything out of place. So I just ended up getting back into my truck and shutting it down and going back to sleep. Needless to say, I didn't open the sleeper door again that night, but if anything wanted to get into my truck, especially one of those things, I was not going to be able to stop it. I believe Papa God was protecting me from one of his creatures out doing its normal thing. With all the miles I had driven throughout the United States and through our sister country, Canada, I've never seen one cross my path day or night. I've stayed in many interesting locations over the years, from LA to New York City and in between, and this was the only time I was freaked out. He stayed calm. I do believe we have a lot of things covered up, but not to fear. In the words of dear old friend, if God can't protect me, who can? So be safe out there, because it's a big outside. Love the stories and thanks for sharing them with us. I also believe that, like most animals, they also read our hearts and they know who are good and bad. Yeah, and I believe we have that same ability too. Be blessed, my friend, and thanks again for sharing your time with us and for sharing our stories. Sincerely, John. John, thank you, man. Thank you for sharing some time of your life here with all of us and me. And, you know, it's funny, there's a lot of people. She's back there. There's a lot of people. I have friends of mine, and they'll just simply say, I haven't seen one. So, I haven't seen one. So they must not exist. And you'll get people that'll say, I worked in the woods all my life, and I never seen a track or seen anything. Lucky you. And then all of a sudden you'll find somebody else who's not into the topic, somebody you know through a friend. And as I know of a man, I know who he is, and he used to be very close to a friend of mine, and this man used to deliver newspapers from Vancouver, British Columbia, all the way up to Pemberton, British Columbia in the middle of the night, and he's seen 2 of them. I know he's seen them twice for sure, maybe more, on the Sea to Sky Highway in his headlights, 2 in the morning, driving, right? So there's one driver who drove for a living at the prime time, in the prime zone, and he saw him twice. And then you get other people who've done it all in the woods all their lives, and they just laugh at the topic. So it's just not that common of an occurrence, really. It's not. But it's real, and it's happening to many people anyway, right? No matter how many thousands or millions haven't seen shit, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make it go away. It doesn't make it not happening to innocent people who didn't ask for it to happen. And now they're left to deal with the bullshit aftermath, and that's why we're here. Big Red Yowie. Yowie Encounter Australia. Greetings, Steve, from New South Wales, Australia, 25th September, 2022. Hey, Steve, been a watcher of your content for a few years now, originally looking for hunting content, but pleasantly surprised to find all this Sasquatch stuff as well. I know, and it's all because of all the people, man. Steve, after listening to your rants about the woo, flu, the climate hoax, tyrannical governments, and the general shit show that this world of ours has become, I can firmly say that we're on the same wavelength. The amount of bullshit being rammed down our throats is an effing joke. 4 words can summarize Australian television at the moment: virtuous woke shit show. Sorry, Steve, apologies for the little rant. It's so easy to go off on a tangent, as you know. Oh, I get it, man. I get it. You know what? I think because of shit that I've been saying, this channel's been shadow banned without a doubt. I understand the comments are getting deleted, and some of the topics, the words that come out of my mouth on here is making the channel become. Many people who subscribe to the channel are not getting any notifications of the channel at all. So, and I do know this has been going on for a while. The channel, a lot of people have been having the channel being unsubscribed from the channel. That's not me. That's YouTube doing it too. It's kind of bizarre. Actually, when you look at the various, I mean, obviously Twitter's getting cleaned up and some other places are starting to follow suit, but it's looking like this place we're at right here is possibly one of the worst ones when it comes to suppressing speech. I wonder who's behind that. Don't you want to know? I want to know. I want to know who's behind that. Why? Who's pulling the strings? Why? Why would you do that? But anyway, sorry, I added on to your rant. Back on track. I'm a career firefighter, 22 years, and I live in the pronounced like Killawarra, but drop the K. Illawarra. All right, Illawarra region of New South Wales, Australia. This area is situated on the southeast coast of the continent, about 50 kilometers south of Sydney. It's bounded by the ocean in the east and in the west, 9 kilometers away with a lush rainforest covered escarpment that rises to a plateau covered in bush for hundreds of square miles that has major water supply dams and rivers running through it. That just so happens to be locked off to the public. For reference, as I type this, Wollongong, pronounced Wollongong, is the major city center and is hosting the UCI World Road Cycling Championships. Cycling fans will know the significance of this event, and if you tune in to watch a little, you will get a great view of the whole area where this encounter occurred. In fact, it's on the exact road. Steve, I'm a keen hunter, surfer, cyclist, fisherman of both sweet and salt water. Locally, we have rusa deer mainly, and a sprinkling of sambar deer and fallow deer, pigs, goats, foxes, and rabbits, and the untouchable native species. And as usual, in this nanny state, there's no local public land hunting, even though this area is overrun with the critters. What's up with that? As a teenager, my father told me about the existence of a creature called Bigfoot and the Yeti. I was intrigued for about 10 minutes and had no reason to disbelieve him. He's my father after all, and as a typical teenager, I brushed it off. Little did he or I know, he successfully planted a seed in my head. Fast forward many, many years, I discovered the existence of an Australian version that's called the Yowie, called many other names as well. Now, things just got serious, and so began my journey down the rabbit hole. I sucked up any info I could find about the creatures, books, magazines, internet, you name it, I consumed it. For some reason, Steve, I don't know why, but my encounter happened at about the time when I was struggling to find new material. The peak, if you will, of my information intake before taking the next step of going to look for them to confirm the existence of these creatures to myself. Knowing what I know now would have been a very silly decision to make. On to my encounter. Steve, is October 2015, which is our spring down here, and I was 44 years old, proud father of a boy and 2 girls with a loving wife, and was a member of the MAMIL fraternity. Middle-aged men in lycra, or spandex for the Yanks. Spandex? What are you doing? Oh, who loves cycling. Okay. As my other passion, hunting, was all about dead and was only allowed on private land at the time, and was effectively only open to people who knew families with land or to rich people who could afford ridiculous fees landowners were charging. They sell bows and arrows, right? Just saying. The Illawarra escarpment is crisscrossed with many walking trails and mountain bike tracks and is very popular with bushwalkers, riders, and rock climbers. Thousands of people use it every year, all year round. One of the most popular and challenging roads up the escarpment for cyclists is Mount Kyra Road, pronounced Kyra, Mount Kyra Road. A mixture of switchbacks, hairpins, and steep climbs that snakes its way through the thick rainforest to the top lookout. It was about 6:15 a.m. and sun shining, and found myself at the steepest part of the climb and running out of talent fast. I resigned myself to my granny gear, for the rest of the crawl up the section and was passed by two stupidly fit cyclists. These two cyclists stayed within 100 meters of me for the rest of the ride up the mountain. The road continued to follow the contours of the side of the mountain and came to a blind right-hand corner. On the right-hand side of the narrow mountain road is a rock wall, and on the left side is a steel Armico barrier to stop vehicles going over the edge, which was waist high. Below this is a ledge about 1 meter wide, and if I was standing on this ledge, to the top of the barrier would be about my chest, and I'm 5'7". Below this, the drop is very steep for about 20 meters into the forest. The two cyclists in front of me went around the bend and out of sight. I approached the bend and went around it with no problems and nothing out of the ordinary on these windy, narrow roads. I got a habit of checking my six frequent, as this road is also used by enthusiastic teenage drivers and motorbike riders. At around 50 meters past the bend, I did a quick check on my six, and there it was. It was huge. Just standing on the ledge I previously described, behind the barrier. The top of the barrier was at its waistline, which would make it around 7 to 8 feet tall. Steve, I was in shock at what I was looking at. I stopped immediately and locked onto it. When it noticed it had been seen, it just turned to its left and walked down the steep embankment out of sight. This creature was a male, as there were no breasts present. The hair was a red-brown color, about 3 to 4 inches long, and it really stood out because the sunlight was glistening off of it. The hair covered every part of his body that I could see except his face. His skin was dark gray, and the distance was too great to see his eyes and facial features. Dark gray, that seems to be the predominant skin color, doesn't it? We heard a tanned skin just like a tanned human being, but the gray has been really common. The muscle on this creature was immense. It looked around 4 feet wide. When this huge creature turned to its left and walked away, I had a chance to look at him from the side. He had a slightly conical shaped head, which was, sorry. Whoa! You got it. You got it. Well, I guess that was coming, wasn't it? The dog knocked us over. When this 4 feet wide, when this huge creature turned to its left and walked away, I had a chance to look at him from the side. He had a slightly conical shaped head, which was huge. And for the life of me, I cannot recall the ears. Its neck was very short and thick, which made it appear that the head was just stuck on the shoulders. Haven't heard that before. The shoulder muscles were huge. It looked like he had 2 soccer balls sitting on the shoulders with proportionally sized biceps. I couldn't see the rest of the arms. It was below the level of the barrier. His torso was about 2.5 feet thick and no fat. Every muscle could be seen through the hair with the sun shining on it. Steve, the worst part about this situation is the fact that I had to come back down the mountain the same way. Ugh, no doubt. I don't know how I made it back down without killing myself. After this experience, I could not go hunting for a very long time. 5 years to be exact. During that time, free hunting in state forests was permitted by the government. This still wasn't enough to entice me into the wilderness. On the 6th year, I found the confidence to return to hunting again and found myself in the bush near dark and all alone. I freaked out and spent the night in the nearest town. COVID has come and gone, and I feel that I've found the confidence to camp in the bush again. Maybe not solo, but with baby steps, I'll set there again. Steve, it's so true what you say about once you have seen one, you don't want to see another one for the rest of your life. It's like once it's proven to yourself, there's no more desire to look for evidence of the existence of these creatures. It's just a fact that you know that they are here. I want to thank you for doing what you do. It's easy to see that you've helped hundreds of people come to terms with their experiences. You're a special kind of human, Steve. Take care and watch your 6. Regards, Darian. Don't care if you use my name. Man, appreciate you. I appreciate you, buddy. And I'm glad you're going back in the woods. I hope I can set some kind of example for doing it. And don't stop, but go with your intuition, right? Just go with your gut instinct and get more in tune with it. Do whatever. That goes for everybody. Everybody has to get in tune with their sixth sense, their intuition, their gut instinct. I know I've said all three of those descriptive words, names for it, but we do. And if we were taught to at a very young age to retain how potent and strong that skill is when we're born, we're children, we're innocent, then we are trained to train it and enhance it. And imagine the bullshit that would be erased from our communities alone, just on that benefit of being in tune with our sixth sense. It's a bullshit detector, right? It tells us everything. It tells us what somebody's energy is like. It tells us if there's any danger about going on that boat trip. It tells us we shouldn't hang a right or shouldn't hang a left. We shouldn't go in that forest today. That dude that's on your porch, whether they're bad or not, or that absolute piece of shit who's made it to position of being called a leader, right? They wouldn't get there if we were all in tune with our intuition or sixth sense. They wouldn't. But anyway, moving along. Quick note, too, for the truck driver, I forgot to say. This truck getting shook forward and backward. That is one hell of an example of frickin' power, man. And whenever I hear of something being shook, shaken, my memory always goes straight back to the experience. I think maybe John Bendernagel may have reported it and shared that first, I think. Maybe that's where I heard it from. Long time ago, but I'll never forget it because it's right in my backyard at the time, and it was about halfway up Cowichan Lake, and you can turn on a turn from Cowichan Lake to go to a place called Port Renfrew, and there's some people going there in the dark with their boat to go fishing early in the morning, stopped to take a leak, and something started shaking, violently shaking the boat and the boat trailer, which scared the absolute shit out of the driver. Obviously, he dove back in the truck and pinned it, thinking it was a landslide, until they got a ways away and realized there's nothing there that could slide. And when they got to the marina, the tongue and the boat trailer was bent so bad they couldn't get it off. Couldn't get the trailer off the hitch. So they stopped at the wrong place at the wrong time and pissed somebody off, right? Or somebody was thinking that was a funny thing to do. Like somebody probably thought it was hilarious to shake your rig back and forth. That is so intimidating, isn't it? Isn't that freaking intimidating to hear of those displays? And who wants to experience that? I don't. I have absolute no curiosity of experiencing that myself. At all. Period. Now, here's another one. This is a reply to, and I think we've had a couple of people email in about a deer disappearing blatantly in front of them. What's up with that? We encourage people to say right in if they have the same. Somebody did. And this is titled Another Deer Disappearance. Hi, Steve. My name is Betty. Thank you for all. Hi, Steve. My name is Betty. Thank you to all who share here. Their stories have helped this middle-aged gal feel not so loony. I thought I lost my mind for a minute, but your channel of sharing our experiences has helped me not feel alone when it comes to strange experiences in our world. I'm another viewer that experienced almost hitting a deer. My story starts with me driving westbound on I-90 in Washington in May 2021, not far from the Nature Passover that WSDOT built on the east side of the Cascades. It's dawn and I'm alone. Not another car anywhere. I'm rocking out to my stereo and on cruise control. Then all of a sudden, this huge buck with a big rack came over the side barriers straight at me. A flash of terror and screaming my Lord's name while swerving to my left. I thought I was going to die. Then it was gone. Steve, I seen his muzzle. Open mouth, tongue hanging out, eyes wide open, and hoof coming over the right side of my hood and front window. I had a carrier on top, so it didn't somehow slide over my roof. I felt no collision. I thought it was pulled back, but hearing this second account of a deer disappearance on your channel makes me think that maybe when I swerved, my mind thought it went backwards. I don't really know what happened to it. All I know is I thanked my guardian angels or Sasquatch out loud for saving my life. I looked in all my mirrors and nothing, just gone. Thank you for sharing this. God bless you and yours. Boop. Crazy. Why do I have another one? There's another email attached to the bottom of yours here. You know, a lot of people have almost hit something and not hit it. Try to figure out what happened, but something, it sounds like something a little more significant is happening, right? With people seeing these things absolutely disappear. And that actually is enough motivation for them to email that story in. You gotta understand, although we weren't there, it doesn't sound like much, must have been these must be very significant experiences. Here's another one. I hope I didn't read this one already, but they're attached probably because of the same title. The next one's titled Disappearing Deer, from somebody else. Good day to you, Steve. Ian C. here from Snohomish County, Washington. I wrote in about the predator I seen in my house back in the 90s. I want to add a little to that. At the time, I thought it might have been a ghost. It wasn't extremely large, just the size of a taller adult human. When I saw it run towards the back door, I figured it left. Maybe that's why I followed. But my back door was closed and I didn't hear it open. When I got back to the door, it was closed. So I opened it and checked if I could see anything outside. When I didn't see anything, I closed the door, and that's when I felt like it was still there in the room with me. And I left as fast as I could. I always just figured a ghost. I don't know why. But then I started hearing others have seen these things. Now I don't know. I don't really think it was a Sasquatch because I live pretty far from any type of woods or greenbelt. But again, well, I don't know. Anyway, that's not why I wanted to write this time. Now that I've heard a few disappearing deer stories, it made me think about something similar that happened to me. I was driving on Washington SR 20, the North Cascades Highway from Mount Vernon to Winthrop. It was summertime and pretty late at night. I was driving a 2000 Dodge Durango with an old 60s 12-foot Mirocraft tin boat on a trailer in tow. My wife and daughter had fallen asleep and I was just cruising along the windy road. I was noticing all the deer crossing signs, so I was trying to stay vigilant. And then, just as I was thinking I need to be careful, a herd of deer ran out into the road in front of me. And one jumps right at my car. As I tried to swerve to miss it, I'm looking into its eyes, face to face through the driver's side window. Like they were running across the road, they were leaping, jumping, bounding, whatever you want to call it. But this deer jumped as if it wanted to get in the car. And it would have if I hadn't swerved. His front legs landed right next to my door with his back legs still in the air, and his head was even turned to the side to avoid hitting the glass or bracing for impact. I was literally looking at it face to face. It should have bounced off the car. I was expecting it to at least take out the boat I was towing. The only logical thing I could think of was it must have threaded the needle over the trailer tongue between the truck and the boat, but even that seems impossible or impressive. Over the top of the boat, I don't know. I was probably going 50 miles an hour. I looked back and there was nothing. No thud, no bang, no boom, not even any deer to be seen. Oh, and when I swerved, it woke up my wife, who screamed when she saw what was happening, which woke my daughter up crying. But even my wife was like, "Why didn't we hit that deer? I mean, it was inches from the glass." Anywho, I don't know if that qualifies, but I always wondered about that one. I considered myself lucky. Oh, and side note, there is a digital sign on this highway as you start to gain elevation that gives you a dollar amount of damage caused by deer collisions for the season. They close the road in the winter. For what it's worth, there it is. Thanks for creating this place so everyone can share stories and search for truth. I've been watching every day since I was led to the channel. You are the man. This is a pretty awesome thing you started. Better days to you and everyone here, Ian C. Okay, thanks, Ian. You know, this disappearing, thanks for the kind words too, man. And this place is nothing without people like you, all right? It's funny, since we had somebody mention the absolute vanishing deer, and then now what? We've had 4 people email in the same thing, basically, right? It's kind of odd. I have zero previous knowledge of hearing anything like this myself. But it's just like anything else. When you have enough people seeing the same shit and sharing it openly, it needs attention. If you're interested or curious, right? It warrants attention, right? Because it's possibly another chunk of a puzzle piece missing for somebody, or it's just something that we need to know to add to the bucket of crazy shit that we're getting fed to us. This is a crazy lifetime, right? This is a freaking crazy experience being alive. It's absolutely nuts, especially today, right? This is an absolute crazy, crazy ass ride. It's crazy. Do I regret doing what I'm doing right now? Not a freaking chance, man. It has helped me grow so much. It is absolutely ridiculous. It's helped me. I know it's helped a lot of people. Continues to. But anyway, on that note, I gotta go. I gotta fire up this chainsaw. Gotta get this done. Gotta get a bunch of other shit done. Done. But I will be back. We have a lot to hear. We got a lot to learn. And a lot of people are coming forward to share, man. A lot of honest people out there. And it's funny, you know, when you get, when I've said it before, but I guess it just pisses me off, makes me growl, because the amount of people that are writing in just shows me how much the previous so-called big names kept away from everybody. How many voices they kept suppressed, those filthy bastards. Zero respect for them. It makes me frickin' angry. Especially when you directly know who the culprits were. You know, like right now, as we're being censored, we don't really know exactly who it is. You know what I mean? But we know exactly who it was, and who helped to keep your voices squashed when it came to a lot more information when it comes to this shit. Dirty pricks. Anyway, we successfully overran them and kicked them to the curb, didn't we? As they had it coming. We'll be back later.
Huh? Now I wait to see what the hell we're doing. Slide right up. It's not the one we called up, is it? Man, that'd take a while. And this is how you come down.